The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Good morning for those listeners across the globe. Welcome to another edition of DFS Today, presented by Hoop Ball. I am excited for the first ever co-hosting job with none other than Keith himself. And I am, as always, David Menkov, the host of Thursday Nights. How are you, Keith? Really looking forward to jumping into this monster 11-game slate with you tonight.
Hey, man, I'm doing great. My bullies got Vooch, so I'm doing great today, man, and looking forward to the slate's big 11-gamer, and yeah, it's fun to do it with someone else for a change, that old guy, Mike Apache, so.
Absolutely. You're going to have to bear with me, too. I think there's been so many trades today. I think we're all spinning our heads trying to figure out who's who, so it's going to be fun to go through some DFS value plays today for sure. So with that said, let's jump in to the first game of the night. We have a 7 p.m. Eastern Standard start. We have the Brooklyn Nets traveling to take on the Detroit Pistons. Currently, there's no game total or line. Going through some of the injuries on the Nets side, Dinwiddie remains out. Kevin Durant also remains out, along with Kyrie Irving. And then James Harden is marked as questionable for this one. On the Pistons side, we have Hamidou Diallo going to most likely make his debut for the Detroit Pistons. He's listed as probable. Killian Hayes remains out. Roddy McGruder, I can't pronounce that today, is probable as well. Julian Okafor is out, and Dennis Smith Jr. has a recent questionable tag that has popped up. So diving into this first game on the Nets side, who do you like? Who's kind of your bread and butter picks with all these guys out for the Nets side?
Yeah, I mean, obviously if Harden plays a 10-8, I mean, it's chalky. You got to play him. He just runs the entire offense, runs the show over there in Brooklyn. So if he's in my lineup. If he's out, though, you can look at some of these other guys. I'm not high on too many of them, but I think Nicholas Claxton at 4,500, I think you can look at him, pretty much in any scenario, whether or not Harden's in or if he's out. It's a pretty good price for the dude, and he had a couple games in a row where he scored near 30 DK points, and he's only 4,500. So I'll take some stabs at Claxton. If Harden is out, I don't mind going to some Tyler Johnson and GPPs at 3,800. I think this dude, he's been terrible the last couple of games he's played, but he had 7 shot attempts, and that's what they're really looking for, some usage at that price point. So 3,800 is okay for Tyler Johnson for a GPP play, but like I said, I'm not too interested in too many of these Nets. But if Harden's playing, I'm really interested in him. That's basically what it boils down to. So we're gonna have to stay on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed it. If Harden ends up being out in this one, you can definitely look. I love your call with Tyler Johnson, 3,800. I'm actually looking at Chris Chiozza as well at 4,300. Slightly more expensive, but still relatively priced well, considering he's coming off a nice little 10-point, 11 assist double-double with 32 fantasy points. So certainly a guy that's going to be in play. If we get the Harden news early, if he's out, then I think that's a great avenue we can really go. And I love your Nicholas Claxton call. I'm a huge Claxton fan myself. I think he's going to eventually unseat DeAndre Jordan as a starting center for this team. So from DFS perspective, I like him at 4,500 as well. I think otherwise we can move on over to the Pistons side of the ball that have made some interesting moves at this deadline. Who do you like on the Pistons side?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm always going to look at centers against Brooklyn. So Mason Plumlee at 6,300. It's a fair price. I'll look there. It's probably not something I'm going to gravitate towards as a building block. It's not something I'm going to go towards first when I'm building out my lineups. But if I can fit him in, and if he fits in with everyone else, then 6,300 is a fair price for this guy up against a really weak interior defense. I'd also look at some Josh Jackson at 5,600. He's gotten 11 to 12 shot attempts the last 3 games, and again, I'm not super huge on him, but as filler, I don't mind going to him at all. And then the last player I'm going to add here is Dennis Smith Jr. at 4,600. Without Killian Hayes, they just shipped out DeLon Wright, so he's really the last guy standing. He's gonna produce for the next week or two until Killian Hayes is back, whenever that happens. So I don't mind taking some stabs at him at 4,600. Those are the only guys I'm looking at, though.
Yeah, that's a great call. I think it's really going to be interesting to see how the minutes are allocated between Dennis Smith Jr. If he does play in this one, he should play, barring any setbacks. And then Saban Lee, a backup, 3,100. That price tag is very enticing, but he has just not been getting consistent minutes. He had a nice little stretch about a month ago, but since then he hasn't really been getting minutes, anything more than single-digit minutes game in and game out. But this is a great opportunity. Should have plenty of opportunity to get plenty of minutes in this one potentially. If this game ends up being a blowout, potentially the Nets decide to count this one early. Certainly going to have some interest in Saban Lee, but overall, to your point, it's not a lot of interest on the Pistons side. I mean, Jeremy Grant's always in play at 7,800. It's just not the best type of matchup against the Nets for him to really have a ceiling type of game, but he always has a 45-point effort in him. He's coming off a nice game against the Pacers. I just don't see that happening in this one. So I'm probably going to be staying away from a lot of these guys. Great call on the Mason Plumlee side as well. I think he's going to be plenty of run in this one. Coming off a nice string of games, his price is only 6,300. So certainly there's some meat on the bone here. He certainly has an opportunity to exceed 40 to 45 fantasy points in this game against the Nets. So might be a great pivot play from some of the other center mid-tier value we're going to go through a little bit tonight. So love that all around. I think we can jump in and to the next game. But before we do, I wanted to do a quick shout out for one of our sponsors, mybookie.ag. Ever since I started this podcast, people have been asking me for betting tips. I always get asked, who do you got, Lakers or Clippers, Rodgers or Mahomes? And I'll tell you what I tell them. Where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. That's why I tell people to bet with MyBookie. MyBookie's rep is rock solid, and they've got the best odds, contests, and promotions in the business. They're the only place I trust to handle NBA-related bets, the one sportsbook guaranteed to give me the best lines for the upcoming Sweet 16. You know me, and you know that I don't give out my stamp of approval easily. To earn it, you've got to be the best at what you do, and MyBookie is the best sportsbook out there, period. It's simple. Sign up, enter promo code HoopBall, and get your deposit matched halfway up to $1,000. Head over to MyBookie if you want to add a little excitement to the sports you love and the games you bet. Bet with the best. Bet with MyBookie. All right, Keith. Jumping into the next game. It's a 7:30 p.m. start. It's the Phoenix Suns traveling to take on Toronto Raptors. Another game featuring some trade news as well. As far as game total and spread, there's nothing currently listed out as expected. As far as injuries are concerned, on the Phoenix Suns side, we have Mikal Bridges. He's listed as probable. Abdul Nader is out in this one. And on the Raptors side, Terrence Davis is out because he has been traded. Patrick McCall is also out. And Norman Powell and Matt Thomas are both out due to trades. I love the new injury designation for trades. It's quite interesting to me, but I digress. Moving on to the Phoenix Suns side, who do you like on the Phoenix Suns side in this matchup?
Yeah, I said it on the last podcast I did with Apatria, but basically when I'm looking at the Phoenix Suns, I don't really want to go expensive because these guys just share the ball. I mean, I think it was something like 8 players on a team scored 10 points or more for X amount of games in a row. So what you're really looking for, in my opinion, on the Phoenix Suns is guys that are, maybe around that 5-6K mark or a little lower. So the guys I really like here are Deandre Ayton at 6,100. I think he was like 5,700 last time I looked at DraftKings, and he's still just too low for what he's been doing recently, putting up 30 to 40 DK points on the regular, and just capable of a monster game, capable of an even bigger ceiling. So Deandre Ayton 6,100, I like that. So it's rock solid in my opinion. And I also like Mikal Bridges at 5,300. I liked him at 5,500. I still like him at 5,300. Again, just a rock solid guy. I like to have him as filler in my cash games, and I feel very comfortable with it anytime I'm doing that. So don't mind if you go, try to attack that Toronto backcourt with Booker or Chris Paul. Maybe in GPPs you do that. Personally, I'm not going there though. How about you?
Yeah, that's a great call out. I think Deandre Ayton, selfishly, I've been a big Deandre Ayton fan for some time, and he is really starting to live up in the last few games. You mentioned it, the last handful of games in particular. He's starting to finally play like the top pick that he was for the Phoenix Suns. So we're finally seeing that just in time for fantasy playoffs for those playing season long. So exciting stuff. As an Ayton owner myself, I'm excited about that. But I love Ayton in this matchup. I think he should be able to put up a very healthy double-double as well. And to your point, that price tag is still not where it needs to be, considering the talent level and opportunity that Ayton has on the Suns. So I love Ayton. He's definitely my favorite play on the Phoenix side of the ball. I'm also looking at Devin Booker a little bit, 8,200. I think that price tag is very much affordable. I mean, it has gone up a little bit after that nice 49, almost 50-point effort against the Magic the other night. But despite of that, I still think Devin Booker has some great opportunity against the Raptors backcourt. I think he's going to get plenty of opportunities to score and score in bunches, and that's what he does. He's a guy that isn't shy from shooting the ball, and he should put up 20, 25 shot attempts in this one and should be able to hit value. So those are my two favorite plays, with Ayton being my favorite, followed by Devin Booker. And I also like your Mikal Bridges call as well. I'm just probably going to save him more for tournaments personally, but can't go wrong with Mr. Bridges. Jumping into the Raptor side, there's been some trade news that has come down the pipeline. So who do you like on the Raptor side?
Yeah, anytime that the Raptors hopefully starting to play better basketball. It seems like they are. Anytime that Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry are both in, one or the other, you can't really go wrong. It's okay picks. They're up against the Phoenix Suns, though, who like to slow down the pace. So I'm not rostering either of these guys. If you were to roster one, you can roster VanVleet, but I would probably suggest to stay away from him. But I do like Pascal Siakam at 7,700 still. Until he keeps up into that mid 8K range, I think he's just underpriced. I don't think I'm going to go there in cash. He's just not consistent right now. But in GPPs, I think that's a really good play. And then, Norman Powell got sent out of town at the trade deadline, so that opens up some playing time because I don't think Gary Trent Jr. is going to be able to join them and play. I really doubt it. I don't think it's going to happen. So DeAndre Bembry is the guy that I'd pick out of that. The other guys they have available in their backcourt on their bench, he's at 4,500. He should get probably 25, hopefully 30 minutes in this one. Probably closer to 25. I don't know, maybe 28. I don't know, somewhere in that range. And for 4,500, I'll pay it for that guy. He should produce and hit value. It's probably a better cash play than a GPP play. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great call. Do you have any interest in one of my favorite guys that I like to go over on the podcast with, Chris Boucher, the center option, 5,700? Do you trust him tonight?
No, I don't trust him tonight against Ayton. I just don't. I think Ayton will put him to shame if he gets in. So I'm not going Boucher in this one. I do like Boucher a lot, but not for me here. Fair
enough. Yeah, I figured I'll throw that out there. But I love your Pascal Siakam call. I think more of a GPP play for me at 7,700, just given the tough matchup against the Phoenix Suns. But can't go wrong with Siakam. I think there is opportunity. There's still some value to be had with that price tag. DeAndre Bembry, also another great call. Someone has to be able to play that position for them now with Norman Powell out of town. And they just don't have a lot of guys that can provide that kind of value. So DeAndre Bembry is great at 4,500. And that's pretty much where my interest is going to lie mostly. I'm not going to have a lot of looks at OG Anunoby. He's a guy 6,200 who's going to be in play. He has been playing much better as of late. Over his last 3 games, he's putting up close to 40 fantasy points a game. But I just don't like him at 6,200. I think he's priced a little bit too high for me in this game against the Suns. But that's about it. I think we can jump into the next one. And before we do, we just wanted to do a quick shout out for the Brews Letter. We need to pause the show for an announcement. It's a fun one. It's free stuff. Everyone loves free stuff. What's the stuff? The Brews Letter is back. Oh, yes, back and fresh for the 2020-21 NBA season. Our founder, Aaron Bruski, is writing an email newsletter filled with the most intimate fantasy nuggets. It's exclusive content you cannot find anywhere else too. It's not on the website. It's not on any podcast. It's not on social media. It's only in the email newsletter. And you can sign up to get it for free. Just go to bit.ly/bruiseletter2021 and sign up in 10 seconds. Again, the site is bit.ly/bruiseletter2021. Aaron Brewski, straight to your inbox. Enjoy. Awesome. Let's dive into the next 7:30 game on tonight's slate. We have the Boston Celtics traveling to take on the Milwaukee Bucks. We actually have a game total and spread in this one, so hallelujah. 233 is the total, with the Bucks favored by 5 in this one. As far as injuries are concerned, on the Celtics side, we have a few guys with trade pending, which are Javonte Green, Jeff Teague, and Daniel Tice are all out with the trade pending, and 2 guys are out with health and safety protocols, and that's Romeo Langford and Tristan Thompson again. And Semi Ojeleye is also out in this one. On the Bucks side, you have Bryn Forbes, who's probable, and Rodion Kurks, who's out, and PJ Tucker, one of the new additions in the front court, is doubtful in this one. Awesome. Let's jump in. Who do you like, Heath, on the Celtics side of the ball with this high spread?
Oh, I don't know, man. I think you can play Tatum. I think you can play Jaylen Brown. I don't fault you for that. I just can't play people against the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't think they have their ceiling games typically against the Bucks. So I typically just stay away. The one guy I do have interest in though is Robert Time Lord Williams. Like you said, Tice is out. He got traded to my Bullies actually, and Tristan Thompson's out with the health and safety protocols. So Robert Williams is last man standing, 6,400. I don't know. I don't love that price tag, but I could see going there in some GPPs. I could see playing Kemba Walker too. Like you said, the game total is probably pretty appealing, and I don't fault people for playing them, but I just can't bring myself to play people against the Milwaukee Bucks in general.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's tough. It's definitely going to entice a lot of people when they see this game total. They're going to say, hey, let's attack it. But to your point, the Bucks are a great defense. So buyer beware in this matchup. But as far as what you touched on, I kind of agree with that for the most part. Robert Williams, the third, should be able to smash in this game. I mean, now's the time. If there's ever been a time for Brad Stevens to finally let Robert Williams loose for 35 minutes, this is the game. I think he can do that. And yes, to your point, his price tag is high, but he can put up 40 to 50 fantasy points with his block potential on any given night. So I like Robert Williams a lot. He's probably my favorite play. And then I'll have a little bit of interest in Kemba Walker as well, 6,700. He should get plenty of minutes in this game against the Bucks. He's going to be overlooked in DFS for the most part, given his price tag. But I've always been a fan of Kemba, especially in this matchup against the Bucks. I think he should be able to get his shot, especially with so much focus going to be on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum on the wing. So those are my 2 guys. Robert Williams is definitely still my favorite play. And that's pretty much it. I'm not going to fault anyone for looking elsewhere, but that's as far as we're going to go here. Who do you like on the Bucks side of the ball?
Yeah, and yeah, just to back check a little bit. Yeah, I think Robert Williams is probably my favorite GPP play on the slate tonight, and I think that's just because, like you said, he's just got that huge ceiling, huge upside. But anyways, yeah, for the Milwaukee side of the ball, I could go Giannis at 10-7. I don't think he's going to have. I think he's an excellent GPP play. I think you can probably target him and Robert Williams in GPPs and feel pretty good about it. I think a lot of people are going to be off of him after a pretty down game, and he's just Giannis. I mean, he's going to put up those points. Is it my favorite play on the slate? No, but anytime Giannis is on the slate, I have to look his way. One of the top 2 fantasy players in DFS. So, 10-7, fair price. I'll play it, not a problem. And the only other guy I'm looking at really on the Bucks side is Drew Holiday at 7,200. It's a little bit getting a little bit to the price point where I'm not going to play him, but 7,200 still. I think there's meat on the bone, as Apache usually says for this. And you can get some value there for 7,200. So Drew Holiday 7,200 and Giannis at 10-7. Those are my 2 guys. Yeah,
I mean, it's really hard to fade Giannis on any slate, and this is definitely one, especially in this game. It's going to be a prime time type of game, so I think Giannis should absolutely smash. 10-7 again is pretty standard operating procedure for Giannis. In fact, it's actually a nice little price shavings off his normal 11K price tag because of his last game against this very same Celtics, where he just did not perform to any standards that are Giannis related to any point, where he only have 35 fantasy points the other night. But I love him in this rematch performance. I think it's a great opportunity for him to have a bounce back game. So he's probably one of my favorite plays at that price tag. And then you touched on it. Drew Holiday is going to be a guy that 7,200 might not get a lot of looks because he also had a very poor game against these Celtics in the last one. But he's a guy that can put up 40, 50 fantasy points given the opportunity. So this is another great bounce back for him and Giannis. And then I'm not going to fault anyone if we're looking at Chris Middleton. 8,300 is a good price tag for Chris. I mean, he's very consistent across the board. It's just tough to roster a lot of these guys at those price tags, especially 8,300. I think there's better value to be had with slightly less salary. So I'm not going to have too many looks there, and I'm going to probably stay away from Dante DiVincenzo and Pat Connaughton as well. Just not a lot of interest from that side of the ball. And I think otherwise, I think we can jump into the next game, which is the 8 p.m. start time. We have the Miami Heat taking on the Charlotte Hornets, traveling to take on the Charlotte Hornets with, don't you know it, no game total and no spread, given all these new trades that have been happening around the league. So let's dive into some of the injury news to report. On the Miami Heat side, we have some interesting news injury-wise. We have no injury news submitted currently, so apologies for that build-up. There's nothing that's currently submitted. On the Hornets side, you have LaMelo Ball, who continues to be out for the season. On the Heat side, we can note Kelly Olynyk has been traded, so he's no longer on the team, along with Avery Bradley, not Avery Johnson, who is no longer on the team as well. So just making the notes on that front. Who do you like, Keith, on the Heat side of the ball?
Yeah, I'm going to look at the same guys I looked at last night, and especially if Jimmy's out. Jimmy's dealing with an illness, so I don't know if he'll be out again. It's a back-to-back. I think it's pretty doubtful that he plays if I'm just going to go by gut feeling. That's just gut feeling. It's just speculation on my part. I have nothing else that really backs that up. But if there's no Jimmy, I'm going to look at Bam Adebayo at 8,200. I'm going to look at Tyler Hero at 5,600. I'm going to look at Kendrick Nunn at 4,900. Those three guys should be rock solid, and if there's no Dragic, also that helps out Hero and Nunn as well. So, but yeah, I mean, I look at Adebayo. This is one guy I'd probably look at even if Jimmy's playing. 8,200 is a pretty fair price, and he's just gonna. I mean, people just cook Zeller inside, and Biyombo, I don't really trust his defense either, as much as he's a great shot blocker. I think Bam Adebayo 8,200 is a solid play no matter what. But Hero and Nunn, if Jimmy's out, I'll look at their way a lot harder than I would otherwise. They still have fair prices though, so if they come up as filler in your rosters, I don't mind locking them in, even if Jimmy is playing.
That's fair. Any interest? I'm going to throw another name out there on the Heat side. If Jim Butler's out, how about Trevor Ariza, 3,400? Any interest there?
I've got mild interest. I'll say mild interest. I mean, I don't know. He's just not like a usage monster, but 3,400 is a really enticing price tag. I think, I think it's probably a pretty good play if you need that extra salary. I think there's some other value plays I'll talk about a little bit later, but yeah, I don't mind it. It's a good play.
Excellent. So yeah, I'm honestly gonna. It's hard to even go down the line. I think I agree with you on everything you just said. So there's not much I'm gonna add there. Looking at the same guys, if Jimmy Butler is out, Kendrick Nunn 4,900 is enticing. Tyler Hero 5,600 also going to be a great play. And finally, Bam Adebayo is pretty much lock and load anytime he plays, especially against you mentioned the weak Hornets front court. I think Bam Adebayo should smash, and that price tag is definitely something that we need to really monitor and attack, especially when we get in those low 8,000 ranges. I think Bam Adebayo is terrific, and he's a great call out on your side of the ball.
Just to jump in here, just to kind of highlight my usage point on Orisa, 33 minutes, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. So, I mean, in 3,400, he's hitting value, but it's just not too sexy in my opinion.
Absolutely. It's, it's all about finding those value guys, especially with all these trades going down. So, I think a lot of people are just going to want to take some shots on some of these guys and hope they really cash well. But to your point, he's not exactly a high upside type of value play by any means, for sure. Awesome. So we can dive right in, unless there's anything else, we can dive right into the Hornets side of the ball. I mentioned there's not too much injury-related news to report. A lot of guys are priced where they should be for the most part, so there might not be a ton from a value perspective. But with that said, who are your top picks, if any, on the Hornets side?
Yeah, I think you hit it. I mean, I think I was on the Gordon Hayward and the Rozier train for a while, but I think they're just getting priced to the point that it's just it doesn't really give you a value. It's just kind of what they're worth, and same thing with PJ Washington. So I'm skipping over those guys. I do like Devonte Graham though at 5,700. I think there's still meat in the bone there. I think you can still get some value there out of that price tag from him if he has a big game. More so a GPP play than a cash game play. But for the cash games, I'd go Malik Monk at 5,000. I mean, the secret's out. People are rostering him as his salary is going up, obviously, but he's getting a bunch of shot attempts without LaMelo Ball in there, and rightfully so. And if he stays hot, 5,000, I'll pay that for him, and I think it's a fair price.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it. It's tough. I mean, Devonte Graham, 5,700 is a solid play. I mean, he's going to get all the opportunity now in the world to reclaim the starting job, at least for this season, obviously. But he's a guy that against the Heat should be able to perform pretty well. Might be overlooked too from DFS perspective. Coming off a 30-point effort, but a guy that doesn't necessarily have a high ceiling, but can get you 30, 35 fantasy points, just given his ability to fill up the stat sheet. His assists are down since getting more minutes, but he's a guy that definitely has shown in his career that he can get 6-7 assists in a game and should be able to hit that value. And then you touched on Malik Monk at 5,000. Despite the price hike, from a salary perspective, it's still worth a look against the Heat, and a guy that's going to be probably lower owned, just given the giant 11-game slate. I don't think he's going to get too much ownership. Could be mistaken, but I don't feel like that's going to happen. So otherwise, I'm with you across the board on the Hornets. I think we can dive right into the next one, and that is the Portland Trailblazers travel to take on the Orlando Magic. It's an 8 p.m. starting time. There's no total and spread, which is just going to be one of the themes of today. And as far as injuries are concerned, we have some injury news to report on the Magic side. We have Cole Anthony out, Markelle Fultz continues to be out, Jonathan Isaac is also out, and Terrence Ross is now questionable. On the Blazers side, no injuries to report as of yet. Who do you like on the Blazers?
I mean, I have a lot of interest in the Blazers. I just, who is Orlando going to play? I don't know. They're all gone. They just blew up their whole team. So it feels like Portland's got to be pretty heavy favorites in this game. Even though Portland's on a back-to-back, I like Dame Lillard at 10-2. I like CJ McCollum at 7-7. I'll pay up for those guys just because I don't think Orlando's going to be super competitive here. The only risk here is the blowout, obviously. So, but even if you get just three quarters of these guys against a lackluster defense, it's still worth it in my opinion. So CJ and Dame are in play. The other guy I'd add is DJJ, Derek Jones Jr. Airplane mode, 4,500. I don't think Norman Powell is going to be able to join them in time for this one, so no Gary Trent Jr. to compete with anymore. So I think DJJ is going to have a few more minutes coming his way. He's doesn't necessarily have a super high ceiling, but it seems like a pretty safe play in my opinion at 4,500 that he's going to hit value. So those are my three guys there.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely touched on it. I mean, it's going to be tough to keep this game close for the Magic. I mean, they have pretty much two NBA players right now that it appears they're going to roll out, especially if Terrence Ross ends up not playing in this game. There's no reason why the Blazers can't blow them out, which only thing that might limit my exposure to the Blazers, but I still think Lillard is a great call at 10-2. He's a guy that can put up 50, 60 fantasy points and still sit half the fourth quarter. So I love that call. It's one of my favorite guard plays on this entire slate. And then CJ McCollum is starting to really round into form, coming back from injury, just putting up monster games. He's coming off a game against the Heat where he just had 51 fantasy points. I mean, his price is not going to stay in the 7K range for very long. So anytime we can jump in on a guy that is priced too low, I would say this is a great opportunity to do so. So I love CJ McCollum. It's a great call. I'm not going to have as much interest in Derrick Jones Jr. just because he's so low usage and it's tough because he really relies on steals and blocks to hit value. So I'm actually going to be looking at Enes Kanter, 6,900. I kind of like him a little bit more in this one, just because, again, the Magic have a starting center that's a question mark at this point. It could be Mo Bamba, it could be someone else. So I love Kanter. I think he should absolutely smash. And at 6,900, that's a great price tag. So I'm not going to have any fear going to Kanter in this one. So those are my three guys on this side of the ball. Anything else on the Blazers? Otherwise, we can jump into the Magic.
No, I'm good to go, man. Let's do it.
Perfect. So as far as Orlando, you just touched on it. They just have just a giant starting rotation of question marks. And that's really the key here. Terrence Ross would have been a pretty solid play. And he might still be at 7,500, but that price tag is very high. And he's a guy that needs to score a lot of points. He is the only guy left in Orlando, it seems. So someone has to be able to put up points in this one. So I don't hate on that call, but I think that price tag is just too high. I have some interest in Dwayne Bacon. It's bad if I'm talking about Dwayne Bacon in any sense of DFS. At 4,800, that's not even a good price tag for him. But someone, again, has to be able to score. It'll be interesting to see who gets the starting nod on the Magic side. And then the only other guy I'm looking at really is going to be Mo Bamba at 4,800. A guy that is a permanent monster, just does not get minutes. And he has not gotten minutes his whole career to this point. So this is as good an opportunity as ever for him to actually show his worth. I just don't see it happening at 4,800. That price tag is a bit too rich for my blood, but I'm not going to follow you, Keith, if you're going to go that direction. So who do you like on this topsy-turvy Magic roster?
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, man. I don't really know how it's going to shake down. I think it's pretty unpredictable. But the three guys you mentioned, I think those are really all great calls. I've got them as well. Terrence Ross, if he plays, it's a crappy price tag, but he's gonna get. I think he's gonna get 30 shots or something like crazy like that. Because if he plays, he's gonna get them. I don't think he does though. Honestly, I don't think the Orlando Magic are at all interested in winning basketball games. So I wouldn't be surprised if he sits. I love Dwayne Bacon at 4,800. Love that call. That's probably the one guy I'd have a lot of interest in any format. But Mo Bamba for GPPs 4,800. He's, like you said, a fantasy point per minute monster. So, but the one guy you didn't mention that I do have some interest in that I think is solid is Michael Carter-Williams, 6,600. I hate the price. I think it's a little high, but I will swallow it just because I know he's safe. He's going to get a lot of minutes, and these guys are hurting for someone to score and everything like that. So I do like that play, 6,600 a bit.
Yeah, honestly, that's a great call. I completely missed Mike Carter-Williams when I was doing this. So thank you for bringing that up. It's so hard at these price tags to really pay for any of these guys. The one side note I have to say on the Magic side, and the reason why I might end up rostering Terrence Ross is nothing to do with his actual ability to put up DFS numbers. It's solely for the fact that he tweeted a reference to Captain Phillips as early as this afternoon, talking about how he's a captain now. So just for that reason alone, Terrence Ross is going to be in our player pool. So just wanted to throw that out there. Awesome. So I guess we can jump into the next one, and that's Denver Nuggets. It's 8 p.m. start time. It's the Denver Nuggets traveling to take on the New Orleans Pelicans. We actually do have a total, and it's one of the high ones of the slate. It's 230 is the total, with the Nuggets favored by 2. As far as injuries are concerned, on the Nuggets side, you have Monte Morris, who's out. Greg Whittington is doubtful. I'm not even sure how that's DFS related. But on the Pelican side, you have Lonzo Ball, who is questionable in this one, and Nikola Jokic has been traded, as we know, and JJ Redick is also out of town, has been traded. And they didn't include Gary Harris in this as well, he's also shipped off out of town. So that's really the news there from an injury and trade perspective. Who do you like, Keith, on the Nuggets with all of these recent shakeups?
Pretty much no one. I mean, no, it's it's a kind of a tough matchup for these guys. I mean, I get the Nikola Jokic play at 10-6. I mean, I get that. I think you can go there anytime, just like with Giannis. Anytime he's on the slate, top fantasy DFS player this season, and absolutely go there, go ham, go anytime you want to, anytime he's there. But I don't think I'm going to play him. The one guy I might have a little interest in would be PJ Dozier with some bodies out. You mentioned some people getting shipped out and everything like that. At 4K, if I need some filler and I need some salary saver, I'll look his way. But I'm not too interested in that play. I probably won't play any Nuggets myself. How about you?
Fair enough. I'm actually going to have kind of an opposite look at this one, just because I just think that the game might stay close. But I do love your PJ Dozier call. I have him marked down as a great value play at 4,000. I think he's going to get opportunity to get some heavy minutes, especially with some of these guys out of town. And he should be able to put up 20, 25 fantasy points and $4,000 in salary. It's definitely worth taking a look. Nikola Jokic is pretty much lock and load at 10,600 almost every time he plays. He is coming off a poor game and a blowout against the surprising Raptors, but I still think he still has a 70-point ceiling in this game against the Pelicans. So I like Jokic a lot. And then I'm also going to be looking at Michael Porter Jr., 7,300. That price tag is a bit high. He hasn't been in the 7K range for some time, but he's been pretty consistent. The one challenge is he hasn't had one of his signature kind of all-around games where he's getting blocks and steals at the rate he was getting early on this season. But despite of that, I think this is a great matchup, an opportunity for him to shine. So I like Porter Jr. as well. I'm not going to have too much interest in Jamal Murray, 200. I think that price tag is just a little too high for his play. In the last couple of games, he does have 50-point ceiling. I just don't see that happening against the Pelicans in this one. So I would say those are my three guys: Dozier, Porter Jr., and Jokic, and that's about it on the Nuggets side of the ball. Who do you like on the Pelican side?
The entrepreneurial spirit is resilient, and U.S. Bank is here to make sure that no matter what unknown pops up, business owners know that we have their back. Because problem solvers are the ones that keep us all moving forward by finding ways to close gaps, even when distances are being kept everywhere. So whatever you need to adapt and evolve your business, U.S. Bank is here to support you. U.S. Bank. We'll get there together. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Yeah, I think not to say I don't like the Nuggets guys. I mean, I do like them. Their price points just didn't make sense to me. So that was basically why I'm fading them, but not because they're bad players or anything like that. Just because they didn't make sense to me on this slate. But I think a big reason for that is because on the other side of the ball, I have a lot of interest. Actually, I have a lot of interest in Zion Williamson at 8,700 and Steven Adams at 5,100. And the reason I got a lot of interest in those guys is because the Pelicans are going to need that interior defense against Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets really rely heavily on getting that ball to Jokic in the high post and doing some back cuts and getting some passes down low. So those guys are going to be key to their defense. So if they want to win this basketball game, those guys are going to probably play some heavy minutes. I'm probably more interested in Steven Adams just because of that $5,100 price tag. I think he's probably going to blow that out of the water, honestly. He's not the sexiest player in the world, but I think he just has to play a lot just for them to be successful. The other guy I'd look at is Nickeil Alexander-Walker at 5,300, but I'm only looking in his direction if Lonzo Ball sits. I know he's questionable right now, so Lonzo sits, I'll look his way. If Lonzo plays, I'll probably not play him. So
yeah, that's a great call out. I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker is not a speaker anymore for DFS players around the league. So he's a guy that, to your point, if Lonzo Ball sits, he's going to be pretty much a lock and load. That price tag has come up to 5,300 in this one. It hasn't been that high in some time or at all this season, actually. So that's the one thing that might keep people away if Ball ends up sitting, which is only going to benefit those that play him with low ownership. So I like that call, especially against the Nuggets. I think he should be able to smash. And then your call about Zion Williamson, I love that. I think he's going to have to do it all for the Pelicans. And then I also like Brennan Ingram, 8,200. I know we didn't touch on him a little bit, but he's a guy that has shown in recent games that he can put up 50 fantasy points again. We've been waiting for an Ingram type of ceiling type of game, and we've seen 2 straight games of really his Brandon Ingram's potential and what he's shown earlier in the season. So I love Ingram in this one too. I think those 3 guys are my top plays on the Nuggets side of the ball. But otherwise, yeah, overall this is going to be a great game. So from a DFS perspective, certainly something to monitor as we go. So let's jump into the next game of the slate. We have the Houston Rockets traveling to take on Minnesota Timberwolves. It's an 8 p.m. starting time. As far as game total and spread, what do you know? There's none for either. As far as injuries are concerned, on the Rockets side, we have just the ones listed here are Dante Exum is out, Eric Gordon is out, David Nwaba is also out, and Kevin Porter Jr. is questionable. As we know, Victor Oladipo is no longer in town as well, so he is out in this one. And on the Timberwolves side of the ball, we have Malik Beasley, who's still out for a couple more games with the suspension. Jordan McLaughlin is out. Jordan McLaughlin is questionable. Josh Okogie is out. And D'Angelo Russell is also out in this one. Who do you like, Keith, on the Rockets side, given all these injuries / trades?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's for me, it's pretty clear cut. At least the top 2 guys, you know, Christian Wood at 8,400 and John Wall at 8,300. I mean, these are guys that you can pretty much plug in and feel pretty comfortable about that they're going to produce. I have been saying recently in the Discord, and I think I said in the last podcast, I'm kind of off Christian Wood until he starts playing better. But I just think here against Minnesota in a paced up spot, it's hard for me to just completely fade Christian Wood. So he's definitely going to be in my player pool as well as John Wall. And then outside of that, I got some interest in Danuel House Jr. I think he's playing better recently. Like I said last time, getting his legs under him, and 5,200 is still too cheap for him. I think until he climbs up to that low 6,000, mid 6,000 range, I think I'm going to keep playing him just because I think he's pretty rock solid at that price point. So those are my guys: House, Wall, and Wood. Yeah,
I mean,
all building materials actually. A house, wall, and wood. That's interesting.
Right? I know that wasn't intentional, but I thought that was that's pretty funny. But I have to say that I don't disagree with any of those picks. I think we are in alignment across the board. Those are definitely going to be 3 of the guys I'm looking at in this one as well. I'm not going to have as much interest in Kevin Porter Jr. He was a fun little DFS ad for a while. He's been dealing with this ongoing injury. So until he's fully healthy, I don't think I'm going to go back to the well with him anytime soon. And then as far as Jayshawn Tate, the rookie, I think he's been playing really well recently as well. It's just hard to really trust him in this game. And that $6,000, that's just not a price tag that I'm willing to pay. And that's pretty much it on the Rockets side. I think we can dive right into the Timberwolves side. And on this side, it's definitely going to be interesting because there's a couple guys that we really should focus in on. I'm curious to see, Keith, if you are in alignment. I'm only looking at 2 guys and 2 guys only potentially on this side of the ball. Who do you like on this side?
Now you got me curious. I'll go, but I'm curious who you have. No, I really only have interest in Karl Anthony Towns, to be honest with you. I just think 9.99 is too cheap. I think he's got the potential of putting up the same amount of fantasy points as a Jokic or a Giannis on any given night. So I like him as a GPP play. He's not going to guaranteed crush it for you, so I wouldn't go to him in cash. But he's a nice pivot off of those guys. Maybe you're talking about Anthony Edwards, and I don't mind going to Ant-Man, but 7.9, man, that's just – I didn't even like him at 7.6. I think he's just too dependent on the scoring, and I'm not personally going there. He did put up 43.25 fantasy points in their last game on just 9 of 23 shooting, so I suppose the potential's there. It's just not one of the guys I look at typically. So I really only like Cat here.
Yeah, I think you definitely found out my not even a secret weapon, but I was gonna say Anthony Edwards as my second favorite play on the Timberwolves side. But to your point, certainly a price tag that's gonna keep a lot of people away. And to your point, he is very reliant on shooting, and that is definitely a concern. But I think his confidence level has been growing game in and game out. And the Rockets, with all of their depleted players, I think this is a great opportunity for him to shine and try and get it back into the Rookie of the Year race. There's a lot of opportunity now with LaMelo Ball going down as far as Rookie of the Year, and I think he's really going to focus in on trying to throw his name into the ring a little bit more. And this is a great matchup for him. So another guy that I'm probably going to lean more for tournaments just because of that price tag, but definitely going to be in consideration. And Karl Anthony Towns is pretty much a smash play at this point, and I like him a little bit more than some other guys in that 10K range. So I prefer to take the cost savings with Karl Anthony Towns to a Jokic and move on from there. Awesome. I think we can dive right into the next game, and we have the Indiana Pacers traveling to take on the Dallas Mavericks at 8:30 p.m. starting time. We actually have a total of 227 in this one, with the Mavericks favored by 4.5 points. As far as injuries are concerned, we have on the Mavericks side, Willie Cauley-Stein remains out, and Tyrell Terry is also out. On the Pacers side, TJ Warren is the only person who is currently marked as out. Especially with Karis LeVert now in the mix for the Pacers. Any interest in any of the backcourt on the Pacers side of the ball, Keith?
I do have some interest in the backcourt. I have some interest in Malcolm Brogdon at 6,900. I think I've played him at that price point before, and he's burned me. But at the same time, I just think it's a bargain price for a guy that's got the potential of putting up the value of a mid 7K guy, which is generally what we see him at. So it's a little bit of a deflated price. So I do like him. I'll fire him up, especially against Doncic, and the Mavs have been playing better defense against opposing point guards, but I'm just not buying it. I think it's a fluke. So I'll play some Brogdon at 6,900. The other guy that's kind of in the backcourt, but he's coming off the bench, I'll add in here is Jeremy Lamb at 3,900. I love him for a GPP play. He's got 40 DK point upside, and if they need that scoring, then he's the guy that they're going to go to. So 3,900 is a rock solid price for a guy. I wouldn't trust in cash though, because he's just totally inconsistent. But the other guy I'd be looking at really hard is Simonas. Damonte Simonas at 9,300 against the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, they have pretty weak interior. They're weak defensively pretty much all over, but their interior is pretty bad also. And 9,300 is a pretty good price for this guy. And I just think he's guaranteed to have a pretty rock solid game. So I like Simonas a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely nailed it. I think Malcolm Brogdon, that price tag is just so juicy. It's really going to be very hard to fade him. And to your point, that price tag is not necessarily guaranteed by any means, but it's just so hard to pass up, especially as like a mid-tier type of point guard option on this 11-game slate. So I love that call. I think he's going to absolutely smash. And then Jeremy Lamb as a tournament play is great. A guy that's been overlooked now that he's coming off the bench, and that price tag is so low. It's hard not to play Jeremy Lamb. If he gets 20, 25 minutes off the bench, he should absolutely smash that. It's just a matter of, will he get those minutes? Is it going to be consistent enough? That's really the big question mark here. And then the final guy, I guess you touched on a little bit, is Domantas Sabonis at 9,300. Always a guy that's going to be in play for me. I'm not going to have as much interest in Sabonis. I'm actually looking at the other side of the ball, and that's on the other side of the front court, and that's Miles Turner as a nice little tournament play at 5,500. Coming off a dud against the Pistons where he didn't do much of anything. In fact, he didn't score at all, which is a perfect opportunity to take some shots on Miles Turner because a bounce-back game is right around the corner. And I think the Dallas Mavericks at the center position, they don't have a lot of challenges to him. So I think Turner should be able to space out the court nicely and provide some scoring depth and help out Sabonis in the front court and help the Pacers look for a win here. So I like Turner and Brogdon as my two favorite plays, with a little bit of Jeremy Lamb sprinkled in as well. And on the Mavericks side of the ball, are you looking Luka and anyone else besides Luka, Keith?
Yeah, it's typically no, but I mean, yeah, Luka Doncic 10-9. I mean, Same with Giannis, same with Jokic. If he's a top 5, top 3 fantasy producer, if he's playing, then you can seed him up, man. And 10-9 is not a bad price, unless someone's like 11-5 or something. Then you might have to go, whoa, wait a minute, I don't know, I might need the $600. But 10-9 is decent. I'll go there. If I was going to go between Doncic, Jokic, and Giannis, I'd probably play Giannis, and they're all around the same price point. So. If you wanted a tiering, I'd go Giannis and then Jokic and then Doncic. So I'm probably not going to play this guy a lot, if at all. But I do have some interest in some of the cheaper guys on Dallas. Actually, I do have some interest. Always have interest in Maxi Kleber. He put up. I know last time I talked to him talked about him with Mike Apatria. Apatria was all like, he hasn't really put up a lot of points, but he did put up 30 DK points just a few games ago. I think it was 3 games ago, and he's just getting 30 plus minutes on a regular basis. So 4,600, just a fair price point for the guy. I'll always look at him. I don't know if I'll end up rostering him, but I think he's pretty fair. And then the other guy I actually have some interest in is DFS, which is what we're talking about. Durian Finney-Smith, 4,400. That price point, again, for the amount of time that he's playing and the role in the team, I just think it's a juicy and a fair price point. So if I need to save a little bit from those 5K guys that we're a little bit more excited about, I'll look towards these guys, Kleber and Finney-Smith. How about you? Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, those are fair points. It's just so hard. Those 2 guys you just touched on, besides Luka, are just such low usage players that for me, it's so challenging. But all respect to you if you go into the Maxi Kleber and the DFS perspective, because I think they're going to be very much low owned on this slate. So it could be a great opportunity to win some tournaments as well with those picks. But any interest I was going to bring up in Mr. Porzingis himself, coming off one of his better games in a recent stretch, priced at only 8,100 against the Pacers. Are you going to have any interest in Kristaps? I was going to throw out that name a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've got interest in him in my season-long leagues, but no, not here. I don't. Against Miles Turner, who's just a shot-blocking dynamo, and Sabonis isn't a slouch on defense either. I don't have much interest in him. I think he had a great game last game because, the Mavericks really look for him when there's a mismatch, and he had a mismatch last game. So I just don't look for him unless he's in those situations. And here, I don't think he's in that situation.
Fair enough. And again, this is why we do these recordings and podcasts, just because we have so many different opinions that we want to throw out there. So we just want to, of course, hit it from different angles. So appreciate your honesty there, Keith. So always a pleasure. Jumping into the nightcap, should I say the 9 p.m. slate, and that's the one game only, which is Memphis Grizzlies traveling to take on the Utah Jazz in this one. As far as game total, with 227.5, with the Jazz favored by a whopping 10.5 points, which is insane. And Jaren Jackson Jr. continues to be out for the Memphis Grizzlies. And on the Utah Jazz side, Udoka Azubuike is also out. Knowing that these 2 teams didn't have a lot of moving and shaking during the deadline, are you looking at anyone on the Grizzlies side?
Yeah, I am looking at some people. Actually, no, I'm fading the Memphis Grizzlies. I apologize. I had to get back to my screen there real quick. But no, I am actually fading all the Memphis Grizzlies. I have no interest at all. I mean, you can play some JV. He's usually a solid guy. Here, he gets a pretty rough matchup against the Stifle Tower there, Rudy Gobert. So, yeah, I'm not looking at any of these Memphis Grizzlies guys at all. That's the one team I'm fading entirely. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it. JV, Jonas Valanciunas, 7,600, is the only guy I might have interest in. I'm gonna do some digging, but I think as far as his salary and the game matchup against Gobert, he's gonna be faded a lot, I think, in this game, just because of the Gobert matchup. But I still think he has potential for double-double, despite of a blowout opportunity. He can still put up 40 to 45 fantasy points, which is all you really need at that price point. It's gonna be very hard to target him in this type of game against the Jazz. So you touched on it. There's not a lot of interest in anyone else. John Morant included, a guy that can put up 50 fantasy points just against the Jazz. It's just very much going to be unlikely. If he does, more power to everyone that rostered him, but I'm not going to have too many shares of John Morant on the Grizzlies. So I'm pretty much in alignment with you on this side of the ball. Jumping into the Jazz, there's definitely some value that's opening up if this game ends up being a blowout. I'm looking at Jordan Clarkson, 5,500, who's been shooting just absolutely putrid recently. Over his last 5 games, he's failed to hit 40% of his shots. In fact, he's had 2 games where he's put up a whopping 12% from the field, which is pretty much as alarming as it comes. But all the more reason to expect the bounce back against the Grizzlies. I think he's going to get plenty of minutes and plenty of opportunities. He just has to find his shot back, and I think he will. And that price tag is something that I'm going to be looking at. Another guy I'm looking at is going to be Mr. Joe Ingles at 5,900. Should get plenty of minutes in this game, especially if it's a blowout. I think his value actually goes up. His price is getting to a point where it's going to be hard to trust, but I'm going to throw him into some tournament lineups. So it's going to be Clarkson number 1, and then I'll have a little bit of Ingles, and that's it for me. I'm not going to trust any of the consistent starters, just given the blowout opportunity. What about you, Keith? And any interest in any of the starters on the Jazz?
That's fair enough. I do have some interest in the starters. I think, Mitchell 8,900. I think if like you said, if there's a blowout here, I don't know. Does he hit value? Maybe not. So he's not my favorite play, but I don't mind going there. Mike Conley 6,500. I have some interest there too. Probably more so than Mitchell, just because it's a cheaper price point, and if there is a blowout, you're saving yourself, some salary dollars that you didn't waste. But I think I'd probably play some Conley at 6,500. I like that play a lot. I just think Memphis is just so bad. Hopefully they put it on him pretty nicely, even through 3 quarters. So I don't mind playing some Conley, but I think, like you said, Joe Ingles is my favorite play, 5,900. I'll play him even in cash, GPP, doesn't matter. I don't mind the price tag at all. So I'm totally lying with you there.
Perfect. I'm glad as we jump into the final couple of games, I think we're starting to really gel. I hope all the listeners agree here. And jumping into that final 2 games, now we have the Atlanta Hawks at 10 p.m. starting time, traveling to take on the Golden State Warriors. The game total is 220.5 as of recording, and the Hawks are favored by 5 points. There's some interesting injury news on both sides of the ball. Starting with the Hawks, Chris Dunn is still out. DeAndre Hunter is listed as probable, and Cam Reddish is still out in this game. On the Warriors, there has not been a injury report submitted yet, but we can safely say that Steph Curry continues to be out. He's missing. He's going to likely miss this game. And then also a recent injury pop up as well to monitor. Draymond Green was ruled out for Thursday's game with an illness, so it'll be something to monitor as we look at this game to see if he returns. If he doesn't play in this one, I think that spread is very generous for the Warriors. So who do you like on the Hawks side with all these guys coming back from injury?
Yeah, I like Trae Young, 9,100. I like him, especially, Steph Curry's out. And Draymond might be out, so you can't even throw Draymond on him, and here and there, and for switches. So I like Trae Young at 9,100. I think he's going to have a solid game. He's always got that potential for those huge giant games, also. So definitely worth that $9,100 price tag. I also like John Collins at 7,200. Golden State, they have James Wiseman, but I still don't buy him as a center just quite yet. He's still young, still developing. So he is a center, but I don't buy him as a developed player, and he's definitely not. So I'll go John Collins at 7,200 because behind Wiseman they have literally no one to play the center position. So and then I like Gallinari as filler at 5,900. Again, not somebody I'm really reaching to build my lineups with, but if you end up landing on Gallinari at 5,900, I don't mind it at all. He's got a solid role in this team, and he's been producing pretty regularly the last 5-6 games. So I like him at 5,900.
Perfect. Let me throw in another name at you here at like a value price tag. What about Bogdanovich at 4,600? Any interest there?
Man, Bogey, he burned me. He won me some money like 5 or 6 days ago, and then lost me some money 2 or 3 days ago. So I don't know. He's hit or miss. I don't mind going to it. I like it better when one of the wings is out and it's more clear that he's going to get more playing time. So I think I played him because Gallo was questionable last time, and that makes sense to me. But if everyone's healthy, I'm personally not going there, but I don't mind the play.
Fair enough. Again, just wanted to throw out some additional names, but I completely understand. I think for me, he's going to be more of a tournament play, but definitely going to be in a tournament play pool for me at that price point. But you touched on Trae Young, 9100 is going to be a great opportunity to smash for the Hawks with the Warriors depleted. I don't see a lot of resistance. I think he has a potential for 50, 55 fantasy points pretty easily in this one. John Collins, a great call, 7,200. I think he's going to be very much overlooked on the slate, too. I actually like him more than Michael Porter Jr., who I mentioned earlier, who's $100 more. I prefer Collins, just given the game, especially if Draymond Green ends up sitting in this one. John Collins should absolutely smash. And the final guy I'm looking at is going to be Clint Capella, coming off one of his signature smash games against the Kings, where he put up 53 fantasy points. He is priced up, close to 8K, but you mentioned it. Behind James Wiseman, they have absolutely no one to defend Clint Capella. I think he should be able to get close to 20 rebounds in this one. I don't see any reason why he won't. So I love Clint Capella. But probably my favorite play on the Hawks, followed by Trae Young, and then finally John Collins, and then a sprinkle of Brogdon, and that's it. I think we can jump into the other side of the ball, and that's the Golden State Warriors, who are dealing with a slew of injuries, especially now with Draymond Green added to the injury report. Do you like anyone on the Warriors, given a lot of the price points have been marked up a little bit with a lot of these injuries coming through?
Yeah, I love Wiggins at 6,900. I love him. I think he's got a lot of potential. It's a weak defense. It's a great matchup for him. Weak defense. I just think he's in a special spot here. 6,900 is too cheap for this guy as long as Steph Curry's out. So I'll play Wiggins. I think he's a lock for me. I like Wiseman, especially if Draymond's out, but I do like Wiseman on the other side of the ball. Like you said, no centers, 5,000. Hopefully he can get 25, 28 minutes in this game. Hopefully closer to 30, but I don't know if that'll happen with Steve Kerr. So, but 5K is fine if you're getting 25 to 28 minutes of James Wiseman, in my opinion. And I also like Eric Pascal at 3,100 if Dre is out and Pascal is in. I know Pascal is questionable right now. I'm playing this like Dre's probably going to be out, just similar to Butler. I mean, it's an illness, but it is also a back-to-back. So I just think he's probably not going to play. So if Pascal's in 3,100, it's almost basement pricing, and I'll load it up all day. But you got to pay attention to the news, obviously.
Yeah, that's a great call on Eric Pascal. I mean, for me, it's always been a challenge because he's burned me all season. Every time we all touch on Eric Pascal and say how he's an absolute lock of the century. He ends up putting up one of his signature dud performances. So it's really hard for me to look at Eric Pascal, but that's more personal. But as far as DFS goes, if Draymond Green's out, it's really hard to fade him at that bottom barrel price. Almost at rock bottom at 3,100. So certainly going to be in play as well for me. I'm not going to have as much as in Jordan Poole. I think he's priced too high now, 6,500. I don't think he has enough upside, just given his game and his overall fantasy game. I don't think it provides a lot of value at that price point. So I'm not going to have interest there. I don't mind your Andrew Wiggins call 6,900, but I actually prefer Kelly Oubre for the price savings at 6,300. I think I'd rather go there. Just given, again, the salary savings, so I can fit some of the other big names into my lineup. So I'm going to go there instead, but love the call either way. I think they both should have an opportunity to absolutely smash against the Hawks. So no reason why they won't. And then finally, to round it out, I'm going to line in 100% James Wiseman at 5K. I mean, he has to have one of his breakout type of games here. We haven't seen one yet. He's put up 30 to 35 fantasy points at best this season when he's been healthy. But I think now that Steve Kerr has pretty much labeled him as the center of the future, I think he's going to have all the opportunity to perform, and why not start here? So I love the Wiseman call at 5K. Awesome. With that, I think we can dive right into our final game of the slate. and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers traveling to take on the Los Angeles Lakers. And it's a 10:30 p.m. start time. No total or spread in this one. And as you can imagine, there's no injuries to report yet, besides the normal cast of characters who are likely out. On the Cavaliers side of the ball, Andre Drummond continues to be out with buyout, is my designation that I'm going to call for Andre. And then we have Kevin Love, who is likely out as well, dealing with a calf injury. He's currently listed as questionable, but he's going to most likely not play in this one. JaVale McGee has been traded out of Cleveland, so he's not going to be there for this game either. And that's pretty much it on the Cleveland side of the ball. Oh, one more to monitor. Colin Sexton is dealing with a sore hamstring, so he might be questionable in this one. Something to look at as well. On the Lakers side of the ball, as far as who's injured, I think everyone's aware of LeBron James. He is out for the foreseeable future. And then, of course, the usual, and that is Anthony Davis is out in this one. And that's it as far as injuries and or trades are concerned. Who do you like, Keith, on the Cavs side of the ball now that they have almost no front court to report?
I like Darius Garland at 6,800. I like him if Sexton's out. It's a hamstring injury for Sexton, so even if Sexton is in, he'll probably be limited in some respect because hamstring injuries have a tendency to linger. So Darius Garland 6,800. I don't mind it. It's a bit expensive for him. I'm not going to lie, but the Lakers are just decimated right now, obviously, and they're not necessarily the defensive dynamos that they were, with LeBron James and Anthony Davis in. So I don't mind going 6,800 for Darius Garland. I like Larry Nance Jr. 6,500 a lot. He just went off for over 40 DK points against my Bullies, of course, and I don't think he's going to have a repeat of that, but he might, and he very well could. So 6,500 is a fair price for him. And I like Isaac Okoro at $4,000. 4K for this guy, it's just a great price for the production he's putting up. He had a really slow start to the season, but the rookie's starting to grow, man. He's starting to come into his own and starting to produce here and there. So 4K is a decent price for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a great call. I mean, anyone that's listened to the pod, whenever I talk about rookies, I definitely gush over a lot of these guys. So I always love to consider Okoro. I think at that price tag, it's certainly going to be in play for me too, especially now with all of these guys out for the Cavs. He's going to have every opportunity to really shine through, and I love that call. And then you touched on Darius Garland, 6,800. He's going to be a great play regardless of Sexton, whether he plays or not. He's going to be a big target for me as well. And then Larry Nance Jr. is probably my favorite play of this game in its entirety, and that's because just the opportunity and the fact that he can just do a little bit of everything for the Cavs. And you mentioned it, coming off of a monster game against the Bulls where he only had 14 points, which just shows you what Larry Nance can do from a DFS perspective. So I love Nance. I think he's my favorite play of this game. So those are the three guys I'm really looking at as well. So we're 100% in alignment here. And I think we can dive into the Lakers side of the ball, which, just looking at some of the pricing, there's not a ton of value to be had. A lot of these guys are priced really high, and it's going to be hard to really find value for a lot of the guys. But I'm curious to see, who do you like on the Lakers side, if anyone?
Yeah, I do like these guys. I mean, I think they are, like you said, priced up, but I like the matchup here. I mean, Cleveland's pretty much pushovers on defense, especially in the backcourt. So I do have some interest in Dennis Schroeder at 7,100. Excuse me. I've been playing him, and him and Kuzma, they're kind of running the show right now, while LeBron and AD are out with injuries. So I don't mind going Dennis Schroeder at 7,100. Taylon Horton Tucker at 5,500. I know he burned some people. He's hard to trust, so he's really just a GPP play, but he's going to get those touches, and the Lakers really didn't want to part with him at the trade deadline. They see something in this kid, and you really can't pass that up. I mean, you have to trust the NBA scouts on this one, and we all saw it in preseason. This guy can really let it up, and I'm just waiting for him that big game. So I love him as a GPP target, THT. And then the last guy I'll add is Markief Morris at 5,000. going to get overlooked. I think he's got a very solid role in the offense. He basically fills in that, LeBron role. Obviously not as well, and that doesn't have the skill set exactly, but he gets a lot of usage, is what I'm trying to say. For 5K, I'll fire up some Markief Morris. How about you?
Yeah, that's a great call. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. I think Markief Morris is basically the exact same player as LeBron James. I don't see
Yeah,
any
one on
drop
one,
off.
it'd be a tough game. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'll put some money on Markief and see where that goes. I think I'll end up living on the streets for a long time after that one. But I think I mean it's hard to go wrong with your calls. I mean, for me, Dennis Schroeder just a little bit too expensive. It's 7,100. I don't think he has enough ceiling. And I much prefer Malcolm Brogdon and save those $200 and go elsewhere. But I don't fault anyone for going Dennis Schroeder, especially the tournament play. And then you touched on a little bit Kyle Kuzma, 7,600. I mean, yeah, he is priced very high, but someone has to be able to put up points and do a little bit of everything for the Lakers. And he's been distributing the ball nicely. Over his last 2 games, he's put up 6 assists and 7 assists respectively, which is outstanding for a guy that earlier in the year people were laughing off and saying that the Lakers should never have kept Kyle Kuzma by any means necessary. The worst player on the team, which was outrageous. But a lot of people were saying that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And then you touched on Taylor Horton Tucker. I mean, a guy that we all saw in the preseason. I mean, the guy can absolutely smash. And to your point, they were very hesitant to trade him at the deadline. At this point, we haven't seen Horton Tucker really have one of his signature type of games that we saw in the preseason very often. We did see a 31-point effort a couple of nights ago, but we just have not been able to see that consistency. Maybe this is the perfect opportunity against the Cavaliers' porous defense for him to have that signature game where he can put up 40, 45 fantasy points and really show the Lakers front office that they made the right call in keeping him. So I don't mind that call, but it's definitely going to be more of a tournament play, which you mentioned. And that's it for me as far as interest level on the Lakers side of the ball. And I think with that, I think we can conclude all the games. So the only thing left, I just wanted to throw out there to Keith is who is your favorite top value play as well as your top high price play on this entire slate?
I think my top value play is probably going to be Isaac Okoro. I just think, we touched on it a bit, and I know you're on board with it also, but he's just got great production for that price. I just think he's a bit of a sneaky play possibly, and he's in the last game of the night, so you can swap him if something happens, but I just like him for too many reasons. So 4K for Isaac Okoro, that's my value play. And then for an expensive play, I absolutely love Damian Lillard up against the new look Orlando. What was it? Orlando Tragics. I don't know what to call them. I heard some pretty funny names floating around here, but I think on a back-to-back, they're probably gonna. I don't know if they're gonna blow out this team necessarily, and I think they're gonna have to rely on Dame, like as they always do, and he really runs the show there. So I don't mind going to him as my favorite expensive play. What do you got?
I love it. I don't mind those calls at all. I'm going to go a different direction with my value play. I'm going to throw out a name that we touched on a little bit earlier, but a guy that people are probably going to overlook, and that's going to be PJ Dozier on the Denver Nuggets, a guy that should get more opportunity to play, and that price tag is extremely high. From a value standpoint, I think there's definitely going to be some high risk, high reward type of gamesmanship that I'm going to be looking at here. But I love that against the Pelicans defense. I think he should be able to hit value pretty easily. And then as far as my favorite top tier guy, I'm going to have to go with Karl Anthony Towns on the Timberwolves. I think he should absolutely smash, especially against the Rockets. Front court defense. There's no reason why Karl Anthony Towns is not going to put up 65, 70 fantasy points in this one. Barring any blowout scenario, Cat should absolutely eat. And I love that play. So I think that's it. That's it for me. And I'm really looking forward to this slate. You can, of course, thanks everyone for listening, but you can always find myself on Twitter as dmank33. And Keith, why don't you tell everyone what your Twitter handle is as well?
Yeah, you can find me at Ginsburg Beats, and that is G1NSBERGB3ATS. It's a long one.
Awesome. Well, with that said, everyone, let's dive into some profitable nights, and I'm so excited that everyone could listen in and hang in on this 11 gamer, and looking forward to chatting with everyone next time. Have a great night, everyone.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.
Right now, savings goals might feel out of reach, but with the U.S. Bank mobile app, we can help you put money aside in a way that won't make you miss it. Using personalized insights, you can save in a way that works in real life and all the curveballs that come with it. So let's get you closer to whatever it is you're saving for. Because at U.S. Bank, even our tools are smart enough to put people first. U.S. Bank. We'll get there together. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.